Good morning, everyone. This is Brenda coming to you from Stamplicity, and welcome to Fun Fridays. All right, today we're going to look at a Hunkydory Luxury Topper Sets. I absolutely love these topper sets. They make really quick and simple cards. I'm going to show you this morning how you can get the most bang for your buck out of these. All right. So if you're not familiar with these card topper sets from Hunkydory, they come out with new ones all the time, and basically they do a run of it and then they're on to the next thing. All right, so if you find something that you like, get it, because you probably will not be able to get it again. All right, they continually make new ones and they're always releasing new ones with all different themes and varieties and such. Everyone is a little bit different. But what the same that is going to be with it, or the consistency of them, is that you're always going to have a topper sheet, and then you're going to have two pattern papers in here. All right. Now, the premise for these Hunkydory luxury topper sets is that you can make at least two cards with this. All right. So these retail for, I think, $6.99 or $7.99. So you're going to be able to get two cards out of there. However, I always like kind of push the bar, and I always try to get three, four. Today I'm going to try to get five cards out of this one. All right, so I just want to show you how easy it is. Sometimes you have to add a little extra paper, and that's fine. Maybe your card bases. I'm going to be using a little bit of silver paper today and acetate, but other than that, I'm going to use what's in the kit. All right. So this one here is called Special Days, and the collection is called Special Days, and this one is called Proud Moments. And I like this one because of the graduation on here, and I think these little grad images would work for all age groups. All right, they're just sweet. All right, you have the little lion, the owl, and the little mouse. And then the other one, the proud moments that are in this, is getting your license. All right, which um, I think could work for a few different ways, whether a youngin is just getting their G1 or G2, or if it's one of our seniors that have to go and get their license driver's test and they pass. Why not give them a card, right? So but this is a topper sheet. All right, so you can see now every luxury topper set will be slightly different. All right, sometimes they're circles, sometimes they're arches, sometimes they're squares. They always have a variety of different imagery on there. These all are perforated, so they punch out really nicely. You will get a mix of images, frames, and sentiments. Sometimes you'll even get a border on there. All right, so we've got five good images on here, and that's why I say I'm going to try to get five cards from this. All right, so that's the topper sheet. And then, like I said, you always get two pattern papers in here. Now, Hunkydory has this great paper that they use. It's called the kind of adorable scoreable paper. It scores really well. It folds really well. It does have a bit of a glossy finish. It's not a huge glossy finish, but there is a bit of a gloss to it. You can see the light reflecting off of it, but it's nice and thick. And you will always get two that coordinate with the toppers that are in your on your sheet there. So I have one that's got the driver there, and I've got the one that's got the little grad. All right. So my hope is to make three grad cards and two of the little driving cards. All right, so let's get started. Now, when I open this pack up, I kind of look at what imagery I have, and then where placement is on the pattern papers. All right, that kind of dictates how I'm going to go with this. I usually will do an easel card, all right, or a Z-fold card with these one, because it just makes sense. All right, those are easy fun fold cards that work with this. All right, so and I'm also going to do a shaker card. That always works well with these luxury topper sets too, because there's always some type of frame in there, and then I use that as a shaker. So let's get started, and I'm going to start with the grad cards. Now, I do have little post-it notes on the back because I did pre-plan this, so that has all my measurements and such. So I'm just going to pull them off before I start. And we're going to start with this one here. And we're going to do a little Z-fold card here. And I'm going to kind of focus on this kind of area here. All right, those little grad characters. I want them to be kind of part of the imagery on my card. So I am going to trim this down to 5.5. All right, so I'm going to do one panel that is 5.5 here. And I'm going to go right across. Now, I don't want to cut into the little hat of the owl. Oops, I should raise that up a little bit. So I'm going to raise this up a little bit. I'm going to cut it 5 3/4. That's going to give me a little spacing just above that owl's grad cap. And then I'm going to just trim that. Now, this I'm not going to throw away. I'm going to make something from that. All right. And then this here, because of that little owl's hat, I want to make this 5.5. I want to make this into an 8. No, you know what? I can make this. I'm not going to make this. I'm going to make this into a square card. Let's do that. We're going to leave it at 5 3/4. All right, so 5 3/4 and 5 3/4 is 11.5. So we want to make this into a square. So this is 11 3/4. So I'm just going to cut off a 1/4 inch just from this side here. All right, so this is going to be our card base. All right, we're going to score this in half now because we are going to make this into a square card. So we're making it into a 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. So I'm just going to score that right in the middle. All right, so this is going to fold. I know that looks a little wonky, but we're going to do a Z fold. So we're going to fold this panel back. So we're going to score on this one. Look how lovely that scored and folded. No cracking, no nothing. That's what I love about these Hunkydory papers. All right, so we're going to score this piece in half. So half of 5 3/4 is 2 7/8. So we're going to do that, and we're going to score. All right, let me put my paper trimmer away. I'm going to grab my bone folder, and let's really crisp up those score lines, making sure everything is square. All right, and then we're going to fold this one back. And that is going to have our little grads peeking out from the below the fold. All right, so so there is our, I mean, that was quick and simple, right? So there is that. Now we're just going to go into our little imagery here, and let's go ahead and pick. Does it really matter? No. I'm going to just grab the first one, I guess, and that will be the little lion. So we're going to do that, and I'm going to do You Did It. All right, let's just grab those two. So these are perforated. They punch out really well. So now I can go ahead and attach this. You know what? I think I'm going to just cover up those little animals there. You can see them kind of slightly peeking out, but it gives you kind of that element of surprise. I'm going to pop this up. So I'm going to be mindful of where I'm putting my foam adhesives because we just want to make sure that they're just attached to this piece and not this piece. So we're just going to put it along the left-hand side here. All right, and I'm just going to center it as best I can. I'm gonna use the lines that are on the background here to help me align things. That looks good. All right, and then I'm going to put the You Did It. I'm going to have it coming across here. And that card is done. I mean, really quick and simple. I love the Hunkydory because of the wow factors of the shininess of this. All right, so you've got that mirrored silver on there. Now, I would put a piece of white cardstock or a coordinating piece of white or cardstock in here for signage purposes. I would keep it in amongst there so it's hidden. You can also put it on this flap here. Another alternative is that you can glue this flap together so that it is this. All right, so different ways you can do this. You can have it as a Z-fold card. Like I said, you can put cardstock here with a verse and cardstock here for your signage, or you could adhere this together and just have this as a flap, all right, just a side opening card. All right, so there is one card done. I mean, quick and simple. You could put pearls on here, but just, I mean, this is what I love about these Hunkydory topper kits. I mean, quick and simple cards. If you needed a card real quick, these are the way to go. You just have to add a little bit of imagination. All right, so all right, let's go to our second card, and we're gonna do, I'm going to save this piece for later. That was our offcut. I am going to move on to the other pattern paper first. And we're going to do that shaker card next. I'm going to take my Post-it notes off of here. All right. So we're going to do a shaker card. And I want to focus on this imagery here. All right. So we're going to trim this. Okay, so we want to have this imagery. All right, so I want to kind of center this guy. So it looks like 3.5 is going to be the way to go here. So I'm going to trim 3.5 here. Okay, so that is now kind of put our little car in there, and then we're going to trim this to 5. All right, now we don't want to trim off his head, so I'm going to just trim a little bit off above his head, and I'm going to rotate this, and then we're going to trim this at 5. So this is going to give us, oh, I'm supposed to do this 3 3/4. All right, so we're going to do, well, we're just going to do it. All right, that's okay. We'll center him on there. All right, so there is our little guy in the car. And now I'm going to go into the pop-out sheet, and I'm going to pop out the frame here. Now, there are 2 frames that you can choose from. I love that Hunkydory, when they do frames, you always have an outside frame and inside frame, and then an image in the inside. Now, do we want this one here? Or do we, I think we want this one. I'm going to go with this one here. All right, so we're going to put this as a shaker on here. We might actually put this on at an angle rather than straight, because otherwise I cut off his head a little bit. So we're going to do that. So let's get a piece of acetate. All right, so, and I'm just going to adhere this down. So I'm just going to rough cut this out. Now I'm going to go through this really, really quickly. I'm sure you've seen me make shaker cards before. So I'm going to go through this really quickly. All right. So first of all, we want to adhere the acetate to the back side of our frame. And for that, I like using double-sided tape. All right. Something that's going to hold that acetate in place. All right. So I'm just going to use my double-sided tape here. All right, and then we'll take the backings off and then apply that acetate on there. Okay. See how I did with cutting my acetate. Hopefully it's not too small. Okay, we're just going to commit, and I have to do a little trimmy. And a little bit here. All right, so now we have our little frame. I'm going to clean that on my shirt here. All right, and now we're going to put foam adhesive behind here, all right, to make that cavity for our shaker elements. All right, so I'm going to use my foam strips, and like I always say, it's really important that when you put these foam strips, all of them are butt up to one another. All right, you don't want any holes showing that the shaker elements can fall through. So we're just going to build a little wall around the perimeter here, and I've brought it in just a little bit from the edge. I don't like to see the foam So I bring it in just a little bit. Good morning to everyone. I'm not ignoring your comments. I'm being an overachiever this morning. I want to get 5 cards done. So, and at some point I do need to get to the store. So, all right. So we've got our foam adhesive on there. All right. So like I said, we're going to put this on here. We're going to put this at an angle. So it's really important that I do that, that our foam adhesive is going to hit that base. All right. So I was supposed to put this a little bit longer. You know what? I'm going to put this on my, oopsie. I'm going to put this on my matting. All right. So I'm just going to use silver mat for this, silver cardstock. And I'm going to square this up a little bit better. All right. So just to fit on an A2 card, this already is 3.5. So I'm going to cut this to 4 3/4, just so that my measurements will be all perfect on my card. All right. So 3 3/4 by, no, 3.5 by 4 3/4. It was meant to be 4 3/4 by 5, but I trimmed it a little too short. That's okay. All right, so then this one here, we're going to cut to, that was 3.5. So this is going to be 3 3/4 by 5, and then we can put it on a card base. All right, so it'll fit perfectly on an A2 card with a little bit of matting around it. All right, so there's no mistakes. You just, you just keep on going until you have creative cover-ups, as I call it. All right. So we're just going to map that on there. That's going to give me that extra little bit for the shaker now, to hit something. I actually might even have to put it on another one because of my whoopsie cut. All right. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this down. Do I have a tape runner that is, I keep on dropping my tape runners on the floor and they're in bad shape. I've lost the handle off of this one. This one's not tuning. So don't drop your tape runners on the floor. I should probably get rid of some of these because they're not working. All right, this one I think is going to work. There we go. Okay, let's center this on. Okay, this is probably the most complicated card I'm doing this morning, so this one may take a little bit longer. All right, so then I'm going to find a cardstock mat that this is going to go on, which will be my front. So I'm just going to grab my little pieces of cardstock. We can go with darker blue. Do I have a darker blue cut? No, but let's see. Ooh, maybe this one here will be nice. Yep, I'm liking that one, so let's go with that one. We could also do a red one on there as well. Let me just check with red. Maybe we do both. Maybe we do both. All right, so let's just see. Do we want red first and then blue? These are the hard decisions you got to make. I think the red and then on the blue. All right, so we're going to do double mat on here. Why not? All right, whoops. So I'm just going to take my red and we're going to trim this to 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, let's just get this all down now and then we can do our shaker. All because Brenda miscut that first one. All right, so we'll just frame that on. And then we'll put that onto our card front, which is the blue. And frame that on. All right. All right. That is not cut properly, that blue. Oh my goodness. All right, so I'm just going to grab another one. It was way crooked. That one is much better. All right. Okay. All right. So that that you could use as a card as well with a little greeting. Simple, right? Add a little stickles, add a little glossy accents, you are done. But like I said, we're going to make this into a shaker. All right. So now I have the the dimensions I need to make this into a shaker. And we're going to put this at an angle. All right. So we're going to kind of frame that little guy's head. And then we can put our greeting here. So I'm going to put, because we're going to lay this over top, I'm going to put my shaker elements on here. So I just kind of grabbed something that would match. I had these in my collection. These are really old. They're from Wow. I don't even know if these still exist, but anyways, they're little stars. So I thought that would be cute, and they're silver. So, and it's got glitter in there as well. So there's a whole lot of stuff in there. And then I'm going to mix that up with something chunky. All right. I always grab something that is going to be like the shaker element, you know, that makes it really ooh and ah. And then I always put like a chunky element in there that just doesn't waste all the good ones. All right. So I like using glass beads. I also use like diamond dust, chunky glitter. So this is just a glass beads. So I'm going to put some here, and hopefully they don't roll away. All right, so that's good. That's enough. All right, I'm going to push everything to the middle, flatten it out, so everything is inside where I'm going to be putting my shaker over top. All right, so I've got my little pile there. I would lift this up, but I know it's going to go crazy. All right, so now I'm going to take my backings off of here, and we're going to put this down. And this is going to create our little shaker element. And I'm going to stand up for this so I can get this on. So let's do something like that. I'm going to commit. I'm going to commit. I'm going to commit. I have committed. All right. Going to give that a little burnish around the edges to make sure everything is in contact with one another, the adhesive to the paper, so that we don't have anything falling out. All right. So, oh, see, I have things falling out. How is that happening? All right. So there we go. I didn't burnish it enough. All right. So there is our little shaker. All right. And now we can put our sentiment on there. All right. So where did I put them? All right. You can put you've passed or congratulations. Let's do you passed. All right. And we can put this down right over top of those tire tracks, and we'll pop that one up. And that is card number 2. All right. So, and honestly, we just added a little plain cardstock. We all have cardstock in there. I added that specialty cardstock silver. I always say you should have silver and gold always in your collection. And we'll just put that on there, and that one is done. Again, you could, I'm just going to bring that up. My little glitter is just sticking to the acetate on there, but that's fun. And those stars are just fun in there. And we've got that shaker element on there. All right, so card number 2 is done. I still have glitter coming out because I think what has happened is, did I not take the release sheet off of that one? And that's why it's not sticking. Can you believe that? Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I'll fix that. I didn't take the release sheet off that bottom one. There we go. And that's why I had things sticking, coming out. Okay, I think I got it. Okay, we're good now. All right, take all the release sheets off the backing of your phone. All right, that's going to help with the shaker card. All right, so there is card number 2. All right, I'm going to put that to the side. And let's continue on. And we're going to do, all right, we are going to do, what are we going to do? We're going to do this. We're going to do this one here. All right, so we're going to do a little, just a fun fold card on this one. Actually, it's really not too much of a fun fold card. All right, so we're going to cut this at 5.5. All right, so this is the offcut from our first one. We took the bear off this side. Now I'm going to cut a 5.5 panel here. Okay. All right, we're going to save this piece. All right, and this one here, we're going to trim to 8. All right, so right now it is 8.25. We're going to trim to 8. And the only reason I'm doing that is because I want to score this in half, and scoring a piece that is 8 inches rather than 8.25 is a lot easier to do the math. All right, so 8 divided by 2 is 4. So I'm going to score that. I know I could have done the quarter. It would have been just in the eighths, but just for my brain, it just worked that way. All right, so we have basically an A2 card front, and I love the fact that, you know, we've got that little border on the front, but we've got the pattern paper on the back still. Just makes it kind of special. I'm going to grab my bone folder and just crisp up that fold. All right, so there is that. Now we are going to grab, we're going to do another license one, all right, driver's one. So we're going to grab this piece here. Okay. And why don't we grab that border as well? I'm just going to trim that border out. That border is not perforated on the left and right hand side. You just have to trim it out. That's the only one you really need to trim out. All right, so this one here, we're just going to put this on like so. Do we want to mat it? No, I don't think we need to mat it. I'm just going to pop it up. We're going to put the little stars on here. We're going to put the word congrats, and this one is done. All right. Really simple to do. So I'm going to pop this one up again. I'm going to be mindful of where I'm putting the foam adhesive. We're going to keep it in the bottom portion of this imagery. All right. Taking all the backings off of these ones this time. All right, and we're going to center this left and right, and I'm just going to overlap that tire track border that's on the base of my card, just ever so slightly, so something like that. All right, so again, this is going to turn into more or less, you'll need a square envelope for this one, but there's that. And then we can take a little border and we can adhere this down, and then we're going to use the congrats on this one. All right, so I'm going to glue the border down flat. So I'm just going to put a run of tape there, and I'm just going to put it kind of underneath that tire border. We're going to overlap it ever so slightly. And trim off the excess. All right, and then from our sheet here, I'm going to grab the congratulations. And we're going to pop that one up. And we're going to center that underneath. And then, you know, I would just embellish this with maybe some silver pearls, but that one is done. All right, so we've got this. I mean, quick and simple. All right, get those stickles out, the clear stickles, the glaze and glue. I have glaze and glue here just to show you what you can do for glaze and glue. All right, so, you know, the headlights, anything that you want to make shiny. All right, this is just going to add more texture and more interest to that imagery. I went a little crazy with the glaze and glue. I'm just going to push that in a little bit. And let's do the other headlight. All right, maybe we want to do the windshield. And this is just going to dry clear, but really shiny. So it's just going to accentuate the imagery. All right. And maybe the around the grill here. All right, so I'm going to leave that to dry, but that's just a way that you can accentuate the imagery. That's going to dry nice and shiny. I'm going to leave that to be. I'm going to let that go flat so it doesn't run or anything. So let's do that just over there. Let's keep it safe. All right, so what do we have left? We have, this is what I have left. So I got 3 cards, 3 nice cards. I mean, they're pretty awesome. I'm tooting my own horn here, but very quick and simple cards, but there's still a little bit extra left in here. So let's grab whatever we have. All right, so we have these here. So let's continue creating. All right, so I'm going to let's start with this guy here. Okay, now there's tire tracks on here. We do have another little kind of bear in a car, but I really want to focus on the grads, all right? So I'm going to use the top portion on here because the colors still work. On these little imagery is that same background. So it doesn't matter that there was a bear and tire tracks on here. This background paper will still use. You just have to cover up the tire tracks and use it differently, all right? So what I'm going to do is this is 2.5, and let's use the little mouse this time. All right, so this is going to mat on here really, really nicely. So I want to make sure. I want to show you a cool little technique. This is 2 3/4, and this is 2 1/4. So that's good. So this is 2 3/4. We're going to cut this at. We want the matting all the same here. So am I doing it at 5? I'm going to do it at 5. I just want to center that on nicely. All right, so maybe I need to cut 1/8 of an inch off. All right, I think that's going to work nicely. All right, so there is that. So I'm going to adhere those two together. We're going to make an A2 card out of this, so we will need to put in some extra little paper, cardstock. So I'm going to use silver, and I'm going to show you a cool technique using a stencil to emboss. Now, this is not a new technique by any means, but it's one that we tend to forget about. All right, so there is our focal point. Super cute. All right, so I'm going to grab a piece of silver cardstock. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to emboss. All right, so you can see that star pattern on here. All right, I did not have a star embossing folder. All right, it must be at the store. I know I have one, it's just not here at home. So I really wanted to have that kind of star background to kind of pick up the stars that are in here. All right, so I did have a star stencil. This is from Waffle Flower. This is called Random Stars, and I like it because it is random, and I think you can use it for all occasions. So I want to use the stencil as an embossing. All right, so let me trim my panel first, and then I'm going to walk you through how to do this. So this is not going to be like in your face embossing. All right, it's going to be just subtle. We're creating a pattern on our paper. I'm doing it on mirrored paper, but it works on regular cardstock. All right, so I'm just using the silver because that is going to look lovely in the background when we put this on, all right? So let's build our sandwich. Now, it's really important. I can only tell you how I'm going to do it with my universal plate system, all right? So if you have the universal plate system, or if you have a Platinum 6 machine that came out in the last couple of years, you'll have the universal plate system with it. This is what I know. If you have a Sizzix machine, I'm not quite sure what the sandwich is, and I apologize for that. I'm just, I'm versed in the universal platform, and that's why this universal plate system from Spellbinders is so great, because it has everything you need to do all the things. All right, so so with this here, I have my base, which is A. Now I'm putting my shim in here, and that shim is the F1. All right, so that comes with the universal plate system as well. I'm just doing that just to give it an extra little oomph. All right, so do you need that? No, but I'm doing it just to give that extra little bit of thickness in there to really help with the embossing. That's all. All right, so we have that. Then we're going to have our B platform, all right, which is our platform top. All right, all of them have that listed on there. And what's really cool is all your sandwiches are on here as well. So if you do forget this, oh, maybe this is not on here. No, you're all gonna have to take notes, because on here is not with a stencil. So take notes. So it's A, F, B. And then we're going to do our rubber mat that comes with the universal plate system, which is E. All right, we have that. And then we're going to put our paper down and we're going to put it good side up. All right. Now, the reason why I'm saying good side up is because it's my silver paper. I want the silver facing up. All right. Now, if you're using just regular cardstock, it wouldn't matter. But for this one here, because we have a good side and a bad side, or an A side and a B side, we want the A side to be with a pattern on there. We want the good side up. Then we're going to take our stencil and we are going to lay it right onto our paper. All right. So if there is a part of the stencil you really want to have, just, shift it where you need to have it shifted. Then you're going to take your D plate, the adapter plate. This is the plate that we use for the 3D embossing folders. We're going to put that on top. All right. So that's our sandwich. All right. So you might have to go back and review that. But that is with the universal plate system. And now I'm going to run it through my die cut machine. Now, I did do this morning on my regular hand cranked Platinum 6 because I needed to figure out the sandwich and we had no power this morning. Now I use my electronic die cutting machine, but this morning I did use my hand crank one and it worked fine. All right. So just so you know, so when you take that off, you are going to now have that pattern of that stencil. Sorry, with the mirrored paper, you're getting lots of reflective, but it's subtle. But it's just another way of using your stencils. I mean, stencils are such a versatile tool in your collection. And now to add, the whole like, yes, you can emboss with them, I think is pretty amazing. All right. So again, there's not a whole lot of, I don't know if you can see, it's not a whole lot of lift on here, but it just gives that little pattern. You've just created a little bit of interest in that background using your stencils. So look at stencils a different way. All right. So okay, let's continue on now. I do need another piece of cardstock. And what color do I want to do? Because I'm using that mouse. Let's see. That blue one is not going to work. But what if we brought in that kind of corally color? I don't know. Let's see. That might be kind of fun. Yeah, maybe. All right, so we're going to put this on like so. I need to trim this paper just a little bit. And I'm not sure if I'm loving that corally color behind it. Maybe we need to go a little bit deeper. Oh, the decisions. You know what? Maybe I'm just not in the mood for like pinky colors. So let's well, you know what? I really wanted navy blue. So I'm going to just, I will put this on a navy blue one when I can find a navy blue panel. I don't have any pre-cut. So anyways, okay, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to now adhere this down and maybe I'll pop this up. We've got that lovely star background in the background. All right, but it's not taking over. It's just a nice little background. All right, so so let's just pop this up and I'm going to pop it towards the left-hand side. You could center this. All right, so I'm just going to frame this kind of in that, oops, it's stuck down before I could get it centered. All right, so there is that. And then we have one more sentiment still left on here. So proud of you. So let's grab that. And I'm going to pop this one up on the bottom. And then you could add some pearls. All right, so keeping our spacing kind of all the same. All right, so there's that. And then I'll put it on, I might pick up that, I think that's dahlia. Maybe I'll do the dahlia on here. right? Now maybe it looks a little bit better because of that pink. Okay, we're gonna just commit to this. We're just doing it. This way the card is done. Okay. Frame that in. And I might have to trim that a little bit. All right, that one is done. All right, on the pink, it looks nice now. All right, so that is card number 4. That's 4. The other one's over there. All right, so 4 cards we got out of this luxury. Let's do one more because we still have, I can't let this owl go to waste. All right, so we still have this owl, we still have the bear, and then we still have a few pieces here. All right, so we could actually take these pieces and I could probably do the same thing as I did with this card. With this piece, we could get 2 more cards out of here. I'm going to be really lazy and I'm going to just make this into I'm going to be really lazy. All right, so we're going to just fold this in half. All right, so this is 11 3/4. So we're going to cut this down to 11 1/2. And then I'm going to score this at 5 3/4. And we are just going to make a fun little slimline card. All right. And you know, cards can be any size. All right. And why does it have to be always our standard size? So this here, honestly, I bet you a gift card would fit in here. I'm going to show you how to do a little pocket on here. Sue is asking, I missed the start. Were you sleeping in, Sue? Are they on the website? They should be. If you look under luxury card toppers, it will list. You have to click on the list. It should be there. If you have any problems, let me know, Sue, and we will get you hooked up with that. We do have these ones in stock, though. All right, so I'm going to pop this up, and we're going to make this into a little gift card holder because we can. All right. So little owl is just going to go, and we're going to center this in, frame this in. If you have, and we have it coming in. There's a new envelope maker coming in from We Are Memory Keepers. It's very compact, but if you have your own envelope maker, you could definitely make an envelope for this one. Otherwise, it would fit in a mini slimline. All right, so we've got that. Now, I don't have no more sentiments on there, but if you had a lovely little congrats, it would fit on there. But I still have little pieces left, and now I could go ahead and make a little pocket and the inside, and a gift card should fit in there. Do I have a gift card? Sometimes I just have an extra one here. Just I do not, but I do have a business card. So I think a gift card would fit in there nicely. But okay, so let me just trim a little piece here. This is just to show you how. Now, when you do this, you want to just make sure. So 2 1/2. Let me just trim this down just ever so slightly. All right, so we want to make this into a gift card holder. Now, having said that, because this is probably almost the same width as a gift card, I wouldn't glue down the 2 sides. I would just glue down the bottom here so that it just gives it a little flap to be the gift card can hold in. All right, you can still put your signage in there. So this becomes a little flap. It will hold the gift card in there. But what a fun little, it's just a little, you could also use that as a gift tag on a gift bag if you wanted to. But I mean, simple, right? I did not use the bone folder on this. So All right, so now it will stick up straight on there. So there we go. All right, and we still have one more left. You could do a little shaker bit on this one. We still have this little piece here. You can make a cute little tag out of this with a shaker. Why don't we do that, right? Then I got 6 projects out of this one sheet. Can you believe that? All right, so let's just do that. Nicole will not miss me at the store. She's got things under control. So let's just make this into a quick shaker, and we'll make this into a tag. I'll show you how quick and simple it is to make a tag. All right, so we're going to do the same thing. I just need my smaller tape here. This is just a little bit thinner. Wasn't counting on doing this one. This is bonus. 6 projects from 1 topper sheet. All right, so not bad. And again, like, these cards are not, they're not, you know, a lot of products. They're just kind of fun folds. You know, but because the paper itself on these luxury toppers have that foiling on there, it makes them special. All right, so we don't always need to have die cuts on things or stamped images and all that. If you need a quick and simple card, then make a quick and simple card, but you can still have that wow factor to it. And that's what I love about these Hunkydory kits. All right, so trimming off the acetate. Okay. All right, let's put our foam behind there. Making sure there are no holes, and we'll make sure we take all the backings off our adhesive so we don't have any whoopsie moments like I did before where glitter was coming all out. All right, last one. Okay, so that is ready to go. We're gonna make this into a tag now. All right, so what I like to do is, all right, we're going to just do an angle cut here. All right, so I've just angle cut, and then I'm gonna take this one here and I'm gonna hold it the same on here to get that same angle. And that is how I will sometimes do a tag. All right, so we got a tag shape. I'm gonna go ahead and punch a hole in the center, and I'm just eyeballing this. Right about there. Okay, once we have that now I can go ahead and put my little bear, and I'm gonna center him on there. All right, so let's just glue him down flat. And this will be, you know, a cute little tag. You can mount this on a card if you wanted to. Again, just bring out some of your cardstock, specialty paper, and such. Or you could use this on a gift bag. All right, so actually this would coordinate really nicely if this was a card that you were giving and then you had the gift and then you could have this, and look how coordinated that is. All right, so that's on. I'm going to grab my little sparklies again, and I'm going to put it right in the center. That has a lot of that fine glitter on there. And then our glass beads. And please don't roll around. Oh, there they go. All right. Back to the center. All right. And now we will take our little frame. Let's take all the adhesive backings off. And I'm going to stand up for this, and we are going to center this on. I am holding my breath. All right, there is that. And now we have a cute little shaker tag. All right, look how cute that is. All right. And again, that matches that one so nicely, so you can coordinate the pair. All right, so that is, I have used all the pieces, guys. I mean, honestly, all I have left is this and this, and I think that is it. Crazy. All right, so I have used that topper sheet to the maximum. I'm just adding a few little pieces, mirrored cardstock, regular cardstock, showing you how to use an stencil for embossing just to create some added texture. Let's bring out all the cards again. All of these cards you can now embellish with some gems. We've got the Z fold card here, or the Z fold card. All right, then we have our first shaker. All right, that's an A2 card. Then we created this little card here. This has got the glaze and glue, so I don't want to do too much to that one. I want that to dry. Then we use the extra little pieces. We made an A2 card with this one, a little slim line that you could put a gift card in. All right, which is awesome. And then we had that extra little bit. I had to push that bar a little bit more, and we made a cute little tag with the leftovers that coordinates nicely with this shaker. So not so bad. From $7.99 or $6.99, I don't know how much they are. One topper sheet or package, and we created 6 projects on there. So there is that. So again, the one that I used is called Proud Moments. You should be able to look up Proud Moments as well on our website, and that should come up. It will be on a drop-down list of the luxury topper sets from Hunkydory. All right. So, and if you have any problems finding that, let us know. We'll find it for you. Like I said, we do have them in stock. All right. So that is it for today, everyone. How fun was that? All right, so that's it for Fun Friday, everyone. Thanks for joining me live as well as on the replay. Until next time, have yourself a great afternoon and a great weekend, and we'll see you soon. Bye.